The first one is, will they get another bat for this lineup? Do you think they'll get addressed, whether it's free agent or trade? Do the Yankees make a move for another bat? And second question, what did you make the fact that the Yankees were able to get Devin Williams, a guy who, by all intents and purposes, one of the best closers in baseball, has filthy stuff. Obviously, the playoffs is something to take hold of. Everyone remembers the Pete Alonso home run off him in the playoffs last year, but this is a really talented guy that the Yankees were able to get. And they did trade away a guy in Caleb Durbin, who all intents and purposes, we heard from Yankees PR, this guy has a chance to win the second base job.
So I think, you know how I was saying Bellinger fits the Yankees? Caleb Durbin on a piece of paper fits the Brewers. It's like they want to play fast. They want to play ball and play. They want to play defense. Like, that's their game. That I think that would have helped the Yankees, but not preventing you from getting a year of Williams. To me, one of the key elements of Williams is it allows Aaron Boone to use Luke Weaver as an attack dog. Instead of saying you're the ninth inning guy, it's like, oh, we're winning by 1 run at Fenway Park and 2-3 Devers is due up. That kind of combination. Or you're in Baltimore and Gunnar Henderson and whatever, and it's the 6th or 7th inning. You're like, well, I have Williams for them next time. I could go after him strong with Weaver now. Like, again, assuming Weaver, how do the Yankees get better? I talked about a full season of Jazz Chisholm. Can they get a full season of that Luke Weaver that we saw over the last 6 weeks of the year between the regular season and postseason? If they do, they have the best setup man in the major leagues, setting up one of the handful of best closers, assuming that Williams translates well here.
Yeah.
And again, I asked all the people from the NL Central again, is there any reason to think that Devin Williams wouldn't? And they're like, look, Devin Williams is a guy, he could be a prickly guy and likes to pitch with a chip on his shoulder, but that he is a top flight competitor with a knockout pitch. We'll see who throws their changeup more, him or Tommy Kahnle, if Tommy Kahnle comes back. But again, it feels very run. The old saying in baseball is, how do you get better? You could either score more or give up less. And I think the Yankees very much would hope to put together a lineup that in its aggregate still averages 5 a game, but perhaps are building some pitching that gives up a little less than they gave up last year and a defense that helps them do it. And by the way, just on that is I think part of that defense is they seem very committed to Chisholm at third base to me. They've really talked it up. They think he's good at it. And take it for what you want. If you go to defensive runs, not defensive runs, what's the one on Baseball Savant? Is whatever their metric is. Like Chisholm in a half season at third base was like 3rd in the majors in outs above average. That's what they do.
Outs above average. OAA. Yep.
I think that Chisholm was 3rd or 4th playing about 50, 60 games at third base. Like, do you believe that? Like, that isn't what my eyes told me. Yeah. My eyes told me that Chisholm can make the incredible play because he's such a talented athlete, but that, to me, I would give up some of that just to play the game well and get the ones you're supposed to get 100% of the time and be in the right position for cutoffs and things like that. You better have a good third baseman if Max Fried is on your staff. I used a stat in the column I wrote a couple of days ago. Among qualified starters, I think it was 4th. Fried was 4th in the major leagues in percentage of balls hit to third base. He's a lefty who's boring in on right-hand hitters. The ball's going to be, he's a ground ball guy. Ball's going to be on the ground. Volpe and Chisholm, if that's Chisholm, have to be good for Max Fried.
No, I totally agree, Joel. And that leads me again to that one last rapid. Do they get another bat? Because there's a guy like Alex Bregman who is an insanely good third baseman where, that could be a potential. But just real quick, could they get another bat here before the spring training gets here?
Yeah, but I think now they're going to be opportune. I think that there was this feeling like the Yankees ordered $760 million to Soto. Therefore, they have $760 million to spend. And what I would point out is their contract stretched over 16 years meant that they had 47 and a half to spend this year, right? And I would look at that as the key element of this. Let's say they were willing to do 47.5, and that gave them another, say, 10 to 15 of disposable income, perhaps. Because I do think that Hal Steinbrenner, in his hopes of hopes, would like to be at about 300. And if there's any way to crawl under, I think, is it 297 this year is the top level. If there's any way to crawl under that, I think he'd love to get under it for this year. We'll see. I don't think that's going to be easy to do and be the Yankees, but I think that Fried is about 27 a year. Devin Williams is essentially $2 million because that's what they sent to Milwaukee. Besides that, him and Nestor Cortez were kind of a match salary wise. And here they're going to add about 25 million. So they've added between Fried and Bellinger, it's about 50 million for next year. If you believe they had 60 to spend, and that would have been my guess. Let's say they had 70 to spend.
Right, if the Bellinger and Soto thing happened, right? Like that would have been the 70 roughly there.
Yeah, right. And but like let's just say it's Bellinger Fried. It's 50, right? Even if you have 70, Bregman's going to cost between 25 and 30, so that doesn't work. I assume Alonso is 25 plus a year. So we're now talking about a different level, and it's why I think it was important that they get on the board in these other places, because I do think the key now for them is to be opportunistic if they're squeezed on payroll and just see whose market dries up. Because, look, one of the ways they create more money is, can they pay half of Stroman? Get it down to, say, a $9 or $10 million contract, save $9 or $10 million.
Yeah.
And you add it to what's left, and now you have a little more to spend. Or can you turn Stroman into, like, for example, and again, please don't aggravate, I'm making it up. The Giants finished as the runner-up for Stroman last offseason. Now, that was a different head of baseball operations, Farhan Zaidi, Buster Posey's there now. But let's assume a lot of the infrastructure that's there still said, oh, we liked Marcus Stroman a year ago. We can kind of use innings in the back end of the rotation. We have a left-handed reliever in Tyler Rogers who makes $13 million a year. Can you trade Tyler Rogers at 13 for Marcus Stroman at 18? Yankees get a lefty reliever, which they could kind of use. Save $5 million. Giants get that inning eater in the back for a player they liked 12 months ago. And think of it like that. Like, you didn't get rid of the money, some of it, but you also got a player who could conceivably be part of the last 9 outs of your plan, last 9 or 12 outs in Rogers, a lefty relief pitcher. Though I think they'd probably still like to bring back Tim Hill, who kind of showed he had big balls last year and wasn't afraid. And, that's always an important part of what the Yankees do. But just thinking of it like that, I just think now, Ryan, they are in position where they could take a deep breath. Like, if they had a lineup with the team they had today, and I think they're still going to try to get better. Like, I don't mean to say, oh, the Yankees have given up now. I think they'll still do things. But if they had a lineup, that team is probably a contending team. And it allows them to, pre-Christmas, say,
yeah,
there's still a ton of free agents out there. There's a lot of players, and there's not a ton of chairs for everyone to sit in. And if some players are going to make a decision like, yeah, Colorado's offering me a little more money, but I don't really want to play there. I want to play on a team that has a shot to win. Like, if it's a 1-year contract, I'd rather do it in a high-profile place where I could show off my wares and get back in the free agent market next offseason. Like, I just wonder if some numbers will fall to the Yankees where they can be opportunistic now. And by getting out there and not crawling into the fetal position, and which I never thought they would, but by not doing it post Soto and making kind of 3 quick strikes for above average players, I just think they are in position now to be deep breath. We're not in a desperate spot. Like 10 days ago, you could have made a point, oh man, you lost Soto, you're in a desperate spot. Like, now with health, they probably have one of the 5 best rotations in the sport. With health, they should have one of the best last 9 outs of the game in the sport. And at the worst, they should have a bottom of the top 10 offense, like something that's like 8 to 13.
Yeah.
And so that allows them to take a deep breath while they figure out, well, let's figure out how we could get from 8 to 13 to like top 5. Again, by not replacing Soto solely, but with the group. And having said that, Ryan, it doesn't work if Chisholm, isn't good for a full year, if there isn't growth from Wells
Or Volpe.
and Volpe,
Yeah.
if Dominguez isn't really ready to take 500 plate appearances and be a good offensive player. So they have some internal questions on offense. I think pitching wise, and this is always the tough thing, with health, they should pitch well.